Hi, I'm Dr. Susan Thompson. I am a licensed professional counselor and one of the trainers for person-centered care. All three of us are so excited to be working with you in the coming weeks. And I wanted to take a few minutes to talk a little bit about my background and tell you a little story. So, for about 9 years, I was a faculty member at Old Dominion University. I taught beginning and advanced counseling skills. And on a regular basis, I had to remind my students that the skills themselves are relationship building. That relationship itself is the foundation of every single theory and approach to counseling and therapy. I often reminded my students too that the research on the bottom line of counseling and therapy shows consistently that while it does matter what theories and techniques we use, what matters more is relationship. Person-centered care shifts the focus from services to the person, shifting from the needs of the service to the needs of the person. And so the foundation of this approach is the person and relationship in order to connect and collaborate, in order to discover a person's needs, and then attending to the relationship. That's what's key. It's one of the keys. My colleagues will talk about two others. Clients then are equal partners in this approach, and so are various levels of staff. We're all equal partners. Caring about the relationship conveys a genuine concern, conveys compassion, and also what matters to clients. So, Carl Rogers, who was one of the founders of counseling and therapy, which is my chosen profession, wrote a book called On Becoming a Person. Rogers himself was a storyteller who focused on the inner world of the client and put them in the lead role of the therapeutic process. So I have a confession. Like Carl Rogers, I love stories. And so I want to tell you a story. This is one that I first read in about 1998. It was actually published in 1996 in the book Chicken Soup for the Soul at Work. And the author is Judy Tattlebaum. The name of the story is Thank You for Believing Me Well. So as Judy tells this story, as a young social worker in New York City in a psychiatric clinic, I was asked to see Roz, a 20-year-old woman who had been referred to us from another psychiatric facility. It was an unusual referral in that no information was received ahead of her first appointment. I was told, play it by ear, and to figure out what her problems were and what she needed. Without a diagnosis to go on, I saw Roz as an unhappy, misunderstood young woman who hadn't been listened to in her earlier therapy. Her family situation was unpleasant. I didn't see her as disturbed, but rather as lonely and misunderstood. She responded so positively to being heard. I worked with her to start a life worth living, to find a job, a satisfying place to live, and new relationships. We hit it off well, and she started making important changes in her life right away. The records from the previous psychiatric facility arrived a month after Roz and I began our successful work together. To my complete surprise, her records were several inches thick, describing a number of psychiatric hospitalizations. Her diagnosis was paranoid schizophrenic, with a comment on her being hopeless. That had not been my experience with Roz at all. I decided to forget those pieces of paper. I never treated her as if she had a hopeless diagnosis. It was a lesson for me in questioning the value and certainty of diagnoses. I did find out about the horrors for Roz of those hospitalizations, of being drugged and isolated and abused. I also learned a lot from her about surviving such traumatic circumstances. First, Roz found a job, then a place to live away from her difficult family. And after several months of working together, she introduced me to her husband-to-be, a successful businessman who adored her. When we completed our therapy, Roz gave me the gift of a silver bookmark and a note that said, "Thank you for believing me well." I've carried that note with me, and I will for the rest of my life, to remind me of the stand I take for people, thanks to one brave woman's triumph over a hopeless diagnosis. And I personally, Susan, me speaking, have taken the story with me as a reminder that it's all about the relationship. The relationship is so important. And so we'll be talking more about relationship and person-centered care when we're all together. And I look so forward to meeting each of you as we all work together. Thanks.